Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this special meeting of the Minnehaha County Commission. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, we appreciate people being flexible. As everybody knows, and the word's been overused, this is a fluid situation, and so we've been trying to cut back on our, I'm going to take this off for a second. We've been trying to cut back on our commission meetings just to keep down the flow of people through this building, but we, due to the circumstances, we had a contract we need to approve to deal with COVID situation, and then we also are going to relook at our resolution that we had passed at the very beginning of all of this. And so because Carrie Benz is the person that's bringing forth this contract, and she has a call with the State Department of Health, I believe, at 9:30, we're going to go ahead and take our second item first. And Carrie's with us remotely. So Carrie, if you'd go ahead and explain the contract that is here for our review.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Carrie Benz, Director of Human Services for Minnehaha County. The contract that you have had in front of you to review has basically been established in response to the pandemic of COVID-19. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we've been strategizing, we being the County Human Services Department and the city, have been strategizing in how best to respond to the vulnerable populations, most specifically the homeless population, and how to house that group should they need to be tested for the virus, as well as for those who test positive. So collaboratively, we have applied, the city applied for the actual grant, the ESG dollars, through the state, and those state dollars come from the feds to apply for local use to assist not only the government but any entity that is going to provide emergency shelter to those in this particular situation, namely the homeless and the vulnerable population. So the city applied for a grant, and within that grant, it provides for the opportunity for us to participate in providing case management to those that are going to be found in this situation to be homeless and needing assistance with graduating out of the recovery center, as this center has been named, and basically identify where they're going to locate after they've recovered and are ready to be released from the recovery center. So in signing this agreement, it allows us, the HS department, to bill the city, namely the ESG grant, for our time and efforts to provide case management to the homeless population, to assist them into reacclimating into the community and hopefully having a good discharge plan in place. So we can bill up to $75,000 to do that. I think that is more than adequate. We'll be looking at trying to assist these individuals in finding other housing and different opportunities within the community rather than just saying, well, just return to the shelter. Our goal is to not have them return to the shelter if at all possible. However, if they do, we will continue to provide that case management and hopefully find placement and better opportunities for them. So I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Questions for Carrie? Commissioner Barth.
Carrie, are we getting enough testing going on to know where who has the virus and who might be spreading it, and are we doing any chasing down of the contacts of people who test positive? Well, a couple of things on that. I know that the governor has opened up the opportunity for additional testing to additional populations. Initially, the scope of testing was pretty limited because of the limited number of tests available to the state. However, I know that they have opened that up a bit, and I know that they have done significant testing, setting up a separate site at Washington High School specifically for Smithfield and trying to get those folks tested and with the potential of returning to work. The goal is opening back up and starting to harvest hogs as of this coming Monday. I think as far as the general population, I think they've done a pretty good job. I think we could potentially do more testing. I think that if we were to do more testing, it would identify that we certainly have more people that may test positive but are just asymptomatic. And so I think we would probably have a better picture of the actual number of people who are COVID positive. And so I know that with the homeless population, there has been some discussion in regards to just going to the shelters and saying we want to test everybody. We also know that that then brings significant challenges in and of itself in managing that. So I think that overall the city has done a really pretty incredible job in partnering with the state to really try to best address the needs.
Other questions? Commissioner Karski.
Hi, Carrie. Good morning. I'm reading. Good morning. Reading this agreement, and it says we have, or there it is identified as the recovery center. Is that it? But when I read the agreement, it makes it, the way I read it is we have several locations that we might be sheltering people. So, I mean, is the recovery center a physical location? Is it one of your offices? Help me understand a little bit more exactly what we got going here.
Sure. So initially, when we started doing some planning strategies, we initially identified that we would potentially take over the 908 building. You guys may have heard some rumblings about that. And quickly were able to identify that our numbers would far outweigh the need and for space, and so 908 just wasn't going to be conducive. So then we kind of grew to identifying the potential of the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, those guests and staff merging in and moving in with the Union Gospel Mission, and then utilizing Bishop Dudley Hospitality House as the, quote, recovery site. And just with trying to identify the appropriate staff and how we would actually operate that facility, we quickly learned that that wasn't going to be conducive. We just wouldn't have the manpower to be able to staff such a facility. And so the shelters have remained both where they are, and we have identified a local vendor who has been willing to work with us that the city has contracted with a hotel, and that has been identified as the, quote, recovery center. And the hotel has basically agreed to totally let us take over the entire hotel. So all the rooms have been identified as the recovery center. And so our office, Human Services, will be the conduit between those that need to come to the recovery center, the city, the state. So we are pretty much in control of who goes in and out of that facility as far as placement. And the nice part about identifying a hotel means that everybody has their own room. So we're not having to be heavied with the number of staff that we would have had we had the site at the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, since it's so open and more congregate living. This allows for more privacy, better recovery, and it also allows us to really keep a better eye on things. We do have security that's there 24/7. The city has contracted with a security company, and so between the agreement with the hotel that allows that space to be the recovery center, the security company that provides 24/7, and then they also have a contract with a local vendor who's providing 3 meals a day to these individuals. That has become now the recovery center. So the best part is that as we start to ramp down, and we hope to see the end in sight of COVID-19, as we ramp down, we'll basically just back out of the hotel and then be able to just utilize motel rooms as we need to for this population. So the recovery center is actually the hotel that is contracted with the city.
Okay, so there should be nobody at or shouldn't be any individual at the Bishop Dudley or Union Gospel Mission that are COVID positive or exposed recently.
There should not be anybody that has been tested awaiting results or COVID positive at the shelters. Okay. I can say, in being totally transparent, we also know that this population is incredibly difficult to manage, and so initially when this pandemic started, we did struggle with having individuals return to the shelters because they don't care to be isolated or quarantined. They like to be, they're very social individuals, and so keeping them isolated was incredibly challenging, which is why we decided to go with one hotel versus trying to use a number of hotels to house individuals. Having a recovery center allows us to have everybody in one site and better control. The state has also been much more workable, which is the call that I'm going to at 9:30. So thanks for letting me go first. They have identified the need on occasion for public health orders, which allows us to have a little bit more, actually the state, to have more control over that person should they decide that they don't want to isolate. And so it gets the law involved, and so it allows us to have much better control so we don't have those that are positive interfacing with those who are not.
One last comment, if I may.
If you could just hang on for a second. I understand that Gerald Benega is attempting to join us. Is he on the line yet?
I am on the phone, on the computer. Can you hear me?
We can. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that you were here and that you had an opportunity to listen in. Thanks for joining us remotely. Commissioner Karski.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had another meeting.
No, that's fine. This works. Thank you.
Carrie, I just want to thank you, and I know that you and the Bishop Dudley House and the Union Gospel Mission have put a lot of time and work into getting all this done. It's been going on for a long, extended period of time, I guess, just maybe only weeks, but it's taken a lot to get to this point, so thank you for what you've done.
Thanks so much. We appreciate that. It's taken a village to make this happen. It's been, today is actually day 59 of the EOC, so, but no one's counting.
Any other questions for Carrie? Commissioner Benega?
Yeah, I joined about 15 minutes ago or so, but I really would like to know if, in fact, there's a termination clause on this agreement between the city, the county, the state potentially, if we ever get to the end of the coronavirus issue, is there a possibility of terminating that for a whatever period of time that the agreement says? I've just glanced through the agreement and I can't find that particular piece.
Section 3 states that the agreement does terminate on December 31st, 2020.
Okay, so there's not like a 30 or 60 day acknowledgement. If we were done with this ridiculous virus within 90 days, we would still have the responsibility of containing or committing to the end of the year.
Basically what our agreement has been, and it probably, we probably could have spelled it out just a little bit different, is probably things move so quickly with this. Our plan is that the recovery center is definitely incredibly very temporary. Our goal is that if we can, we'd like to see ourselves backing out of this within 30 to 60 days top. The goal is not to maintain a recovery center or to remain, the city certainly doesn't want to remain in contract with an entire hotel any longer than it has to. Obviously, that is incredibly financially, it's tough, it's big. And so they would like, as far as we want to keep the city safe and we want to do the right thing, but we also know that we're going to have to back out slowly. So it may mean that
we are doing case management for folks, but just not at the recovery center, which honestly is it's a population that we're already working with in regards to the HS office, between individuals coming into our emergency relief folks as well as our Alliance program. We work with them all the time already. So as soon as the recovery center is done, and that seals up, we'll continue to do case management, but it won't be then having to be so condensed at one site.
I'm not sure that I got a complete answer to my question. I appreciate your response, but so there is no termination clause that would say that if we notify the hotel that we no longer need them, that there's a 30-day notice or a 60-day notice. It's just a commitment to go to the end of the year.
Commissioner Benniga, the contract with the hotel is between the city and the hotel. It is not between the county and the hotel. The only agreement we're approving today is the case management agreement, where the county provides services related to the recovery center, case management services, help with finding folks housing after they are no longer going to be confined at the recovery center anymore because they're no longer need to be quarantined, and helping to find some transportation for those folks when they leave. But the contract with the hotel itself for the recovery center is between the city and the hotel.
I apologize. I told the administration I wouldn't be able to join today, so I didn't receive a copy of the agreement that I remember. So I'm going by the seat of my pants as Monty gives me copy or pages of the report. So
they're also on Dropbox. If you wanted to look at Dropbox, it's available on Dropbox.
Okay. Well, I can't access that from here. So anyway, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Bender?
Yes, Commissioner
Cindy
Heiberger.
I just wanted to extend, I'm the liaison for Carrie's department, and I just wanted to thank you, Carrie, for all the hard work you've done. Like you said, we're in just 50-some days now, and I know you've put a ton of time and effort into this. This is a huge project, and also it's an example of the collaboration that the city and the county have done in the past and continue to do to work well together. And in this project, we've got a hotel, we've got the city, the county, a security system, and some type of food services. And it just shows the example of how well Minnehaha County is able to work with all of their partners to collaborate to bring together a very large project and put it together quickly. So thank you so much for the work that you have done.
Thanks so much. It definitely, I would completely agree with you 100%. The partnerships that Minnehaha County has with local vendors as well as the other governments, it's been imperative to make this happen. So it really has, it's been an outstanding project, and I think we have a lot of great things that can be used as an example to others as best practice. So
I would echo those sentiments. I know that I've had the opportunity to hear different plans, and I mean, obviously, Carrie and her group through the Emergency Operations Center have worked tirelessly every one of those 59 days. That's why she knows exactly how many days there's been for the EOC, and I mean, that's nights, that's weekends. The Emergency Operations Center is one of those things that I wish the public had a better opportunity to see. It's just not really possible while they're in the midst of doing all the work that they are, but it is a literal beehive of activity where folks are from across the county and the city and other areas, the state, are working together collaboratively to solve some really difficult issues that have been posed by this pandemic. And we are all the citizens of Minnehaha County are in debt to that group. And I just am, you know, there are signs around at the hospitals that heroes work here, and I agree, heroes work at the hospital. It's National Corrections Officers Week, and there's heroes that work at our correction center that go to work every day knowing that they are at risk and taking very good care of the folks that are their guests at this time and trying everything they can to keep everyone safe. And it's challenging. And Carrie's department is another group of heroes that have worked tirelessly to help a vulnerable population and to keep them safe and to keep the other citizens of the city safe in this time. And none of that is easy. So I just can't express adequately my appreciation for all that work. Commissioner Karski?
I was going to move approval of the case management agreement with the city.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Hiberger,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Carrie. We gave you
Thanks
9
so much,
minutes for your
everybody.
next
Have
to
a
get
great
ready.
day.
Yep, thank you.
Be well.
Yep, you as well. All right, so that takes us to the other item on our agenda this morning, which is to consider a resolution to address a public health crisis pertaining to the coronavirus, COVID-19, and to declare an emergency, all of which sounds very, very stark, and we're going to explain a little bit how that title comes about. Carol Muller.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Office. If I'm muffled, will you tell me?
Yes, you
And
sound
I can
fine.
certainly take care of that. On March 27th, the Commission passed a resolution that asked establishments in rural Minnehaha County, those not within an incorporated municipality, that they should not have more than 10 patrons on site at any time. We had places that very much embraced the spirit of that happening. Before you today is another resolution that would essentially remove the resolution you passed on March 27th. It's very similar to what the city of Sioux Falls has passed, which says that food, alcohol, beverage establishments should be able to have their parties sitting 6 feet apart from each other, and that any establishments for events and public gatherings should not have more than 10 people or 50% of their occupancy, whichever is greater. And again, very similar to what we've been hearing, what the city adopted. So before you today is that particular resolution. Yes, there is an emergency clause on there, which means it's effective immediately. That's the language that we need to go through and do. I would stand by for any questions that you have.
Questions for Carol? I just would note that, by state law, in order for this to happen immediately, we have to use language that there is an emergency, and that's why that language is in there. It sounds kind of alarmist, and that's really not the intent. This is really an intent to address what the governor has put out for steps that businesses and local governments and educational institutions and others should take as we look towards getting back to whatever the new normal is. And along those lines, Jason Gearman, our emergency manager, is here, and I'd like him to just give us a little background on what he's learning in his role at the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, and the data that kind of supports this next move.
Jason Gearman, Minnehaha County Emergency Management. To do this, I want to go back when the first case came out, which was in Minnehaha County in the Hartford area. We had discussions with the state on what to do at that point. The schools decided it was to close the Hartford school for cleaning for a certain amount of time. Obviously, at that point, we knew we had the COVID in the Minnehaha County area. So shortly after that, the Emergency Operations Center was open with just a few of us, just some key players. And the point of the ICS system, Incident Command, is that can expand and contract. So obviously, with the cases that continued throughout Sioux Falls, it expanded pretty rapidly. And that's where our healthcare partners came into play. And what we did was opened up a large EOC with all the partners. And again, I'm going to go back to the healthcare. McKinnon and Sanford mainly were in there with their advisors, which really helped us drive which way we wanted to go and which decisions the city was going to make. And then the county, obviously, within the city of Sioux Falls, or in the city of Sioux Falls, has to kind of do the similar things to make this work so that it didn't push everybody out of Sioux Falls into Minnehaha County. So the point I'm trying to make here is why we did this, and I'm sure people are sick of hearing flatten the curve, but that's why we did it. And it's to keep the hospitals from getting overwhelmed with patients at one time and kind of to spread that out. So in the last couple weeks, we've been hearing from the hospitals that, you know, their capacities are looking really well. So it's time to start easing back on these restrictions, because the whole point of this was to help the hospitals and to make sure that everybody had the health care that's needed. We had the ventilators, the space, and the staff to deal with that. Now, in the governor's order, you know, it states that there's some stipulations in there, or the governor's recommendations, I should say, about a 14-day decline, which we have been seeing. Now, this could change because they've been doing a bunch of tests related to the Smithfield, so that data is gonna, you know, we're gonna see an increase, obviously, and it's all based on testing. So we see these decreases. I'm not saying testing's decreased, but if you test 100 people and 90 are positive, where's the others at? You know, how many more are out there? And I think you're going to see that there's a lot more out there than what we think that are asymptomatic and so forth. So again, the hospitals are stating that they feel that they're comfortable with the surge right now, and it may increase. The hospital beds, I think what we've been using our indicator as, that it's more like instead of a curve, it's more like a little wave where it goes up and down, but it pretty much stays even, the patients in both hospitals. Now, they are taking in people from Sioux City right now because of the high surge in that area and the lack of hospital beds, but they think they can handle that too. So that's where we're at now. So this order that you guys are looking at today, in my opinion, involved with the EOC, I think is appropriate, and we have to get back to normal eventually, and this is a start.
Any questions for Jason? Commissioner Barth.
Thank you for your work, and you're going to wind up with the nickname of Dr. Disaster, but you've really had to step forward in so many ways, and I'm really appreciative of the EOC and the efforts as we see the numbers of positives going down, and I appreciate talking about more testing. I think, you know, I wish that we tested every single person that goes to our jail. I wish that we tested every single teacher that will be resuming in the fall. And, you know, I think we need to do that tracing stuff where, you know, if I test positive, that those that I've associated with are then tracked down and tested. Are we going in that direction? Are we going to have a group that chases down the loose ends, so to speak?
Well, I know that the state has increased their employees that are going to do this tracing. However, you know, with the I don't want to say lack of testing, but we have to be careful on how many people we test now, just because if it rises again, we need those tests. But I think the ultimate goal is to test our healthcare workers, EMS, fire, to make sure that those critical infrastructure employees aren't spreading it to the people that, you know, need to be at work. And I think, you know, you listen to Carrie Benz earlier, who she has almost an impossible task ahead of her, even in the future as this thing continues. We need to start testing the vulnerable population too, and that challenging population in dealing with the homeless, because of how that can spread so rapidly to other people unintendedly. So I think there's going to be a push to do more testing. It's just when do we get to that point, and what are the experts going to tell us?
And the State Department of Health is in charge of all the contact tracing, because they have the information about the individuals who test positive and are able to do that contact tracing.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep. That's correct.
Other questions? Commissioner Karski.
Year and a half in your job?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been like 10 years, I think.
I think master of disaster. You've done a great job of getting your hands around, flooding, tornadoes, a pandemic. So thank you for what you do. 59 days ago, there was so much we did not know about COVID-19. And today, there's still a lot we don't know, but I think we're a lot more comfortable with what we do know. And the curve is just meaning that we know it's going to take longer. We know that it's not going to be fewer people. It's just going to be not everybody at once. And that was the whole point of this. And I think the public is getting more comfortable with understanding that their personal responsibility, what they have to do, and they got to protect themselves, and individual rights and liberties have to also be protected. So I think we're doing the right thing with all this, with this resolution and the direction and how things are going. Is anything perfect? Absolutely not. But we're going to learn more as time goes on, and just to thank you for what you've done and your part in the contribution to getting us to the point that we're at, Jason.
Just a quick comment on how disasters seem to follow me. I think I told you guys this before, but I got to take a vacation in February to Arizona, and I went golfing, and the first day on the golf course, and it's the dry season, I believe, in Arizona, I literally got evacuated off a golf course for a flood. So it followed me all the way down there, and that was something else. So if we would have left 5 minutes later, I'd have been stranded on a golf course. But not a bad place to be stranded, but not during a flash flood.
No.
Yeah.
Are there other questions for Jason? Commissioner Benega or Commissioner Heiberger, do either of you have questions? I don't want to ignore you since you're...
I'm good. Just again, thank you, Jason. You definitely have stepped up to the plate, and I'm sure it's been a lot of long hours for your family too. And again, the collaboration that's been between the cities and the hospitals, and just a huge team effort for our location in the county and the state.
Thank you.
And, to reiterate on this with the collaboration, in the future, I think that collaboration is going to get even better with how we have to deal with things locally within our area versus the whole state. And I think that's going to make us a lot stronger in this area and be able to be more self-sufficient and take care of this on our own. And you guys keep giving kudos to people up here, but you guys had some tough decisions to make too, along with the mayor and everybody else. So cool heads will prevail, and I think they have at this point. So,
thank you. Commissioner Benega, did you have any comments or questions?
I can't add anything else that hasn't been said, but the appreciation for the staffing that we have, not only for those who we see on a regular basis, but all of those individuals behind the scenes that, frankly, we rarely see. I sincerely appreciate their extra effort and dedication, because we wouldn't be where we're at without their support also.
Thank you. So Jason, I'm just curious, does this kind of mean we're out of the woods and people can go back to behaving the way they used to? Or do we still have to do the social distancing and the hygiene?
I think with the people that we have in our area and elsewhere in the Midwest in general, that you're going to see that they're going to police themselves on this. If you go into any department store right now that's open, like a Menards, they require masks. I did go in there yesterday. I brought my mask with, and I saw everybody in there with a mask. People coming in, there was no complaining. No, the people when I walked in with the mask, the gal at the front said, "Oh, thank you. We appreciate it so much that you wore your mask when you came in here." Are we out of the woods yet? No, not at all. But I think we're getting more knowledge on this and get a better handle on it and how to deal with it in the future. Were there mistakes made? Obviously, yes. A lot of the modeling's been inaccurate. The panic that ensued, that millions of people would die, that hasn't happened, thank God. But I think in the future you'll see some of the steps that were taken were very helpful in easing that curve and bringing it down.
Well, and I agree. I think there is a lot of, confusion out there, and it's hard. There's so much information flowing at you, and things have changed. Sometimes, we joke hourly, but literally hourly things have changed. And, I don't want to minimize. There have been deaths, and there have been some very, very difficult circumstances for a number of families who've had to deal with deaths or serious illnesses in their family, and we don't want to minimize that. And I think, the message here is that you should, if you are at risk, you should still be very careful. And, I talked to my mom. She's still very concerned about this, and she should be. She's in an at-risk category, but she's also being very responsible, being very careful about not wanting her daughter to visit her on Mother's Day for fear of, infection, and that's responsible action. And that's what we all need to keep up, that level of personal responsibility to take care of ourselves and our family, but also, like you said, the example of Menards, take care of everybody around you by behaving responsibly yourself, taking the precautions that are still necessary to, wash your hands and to, keep distance from people, which still feels really awkward to me, but is really necessary and has really been effective in flattening that curve. So we don't want people to, I want people to understand that we recognize we're not out of the woods, but that there's all kinds of harm that we do and that we knew we were doing by decisions that were made. There's the medical risk that we've addressed by behaving responsibly, but there's also been huge economic toll that all of this has taken, and we can't minimize that. There's psychological toll that's been taken on a lot of people. This has been very psychologically damaging to people. And so we have to figure out a way to live in this new normal. COVID, all the scientists, while they might not agree on a lot of things, seem to agree that it's going to be around for a while, and that we're going to have to figure out how to how our educators are going to have to educate, and how our businesses are going to have to be able to do business, and how government's going to be able to continue to provide services to folks. And all of those are challenging, but people have risen to the challenge. It's been amazing. I think there have been great things that have been learned through this experiment that we've all been, we've been dropped in the deep end of the pool and had to try to figure out how to swim, how to do business, how to govern, how to provide education to folks. I know it's also National Educators Week. And shout out to them, because every parent that I know that's trying to homeschool at home thinks educators are way underpaid after they've experienced some of that. So, what we're looking at today is rescinding the resolution we have in place, putting in a replacement resolution. There's been a number of opportunities for the local mayors and Lincoln County and Minnehaha County officials to visit on a pretty regular basis, because we'd like to have a collaborative effort where we move forward in a somewhat unified basis for helping to guide businesses and people in our counties as to how to step down from this and how to kind of responsibly, gradually move back into this new normal. And this is a first step in that process, I think. And I think, this resolution doesn't have an end date, because we'll be bringing forward another resolution. We're working hard right now to kind of come up with a game plan that we can put in place, acknowledging that things might change and we might have to adjust it. We've talked last week, our parks are open on a limited basis, and we expect people and hope people will behave responsibly out at the parks. The comfort stations aren't open. There's some vault toilets that are available, but the picnic areas are kind of closed, but we do encourage people to get out and walk and those kind of things. So anyway, I talked a long time. Anybody else have anything else they want to say? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to pass this resolution and declare an emergency.
Second, Benninger.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Benega,
Aye.
Heinberger,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Barth,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, this is the opportunity for public comment. Anyone here would like to speak? Seeing none.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Heinberger,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Yep.